So the second point about this Spanish example, I said that there was 2 points. So this is the second point. The second point is that misconception thing that I kept mentioning in the beginning of this video. And basically, this is something that I heard other language learners say. When I talk to other language learners, I often heard people say this, that people would often talk about pronouncing letters. And hopefully these examples kind of show that is just nonsense. You don't pronounce letters. If you pronounce anything, you pronounce sounds which arise from a certain idea in your mind, which is a phoneme. That's an idea that the speakers are often unaware of, because it's just so ingrained in the way that you use the language, you don't even think about that. Like if you ask an English speaker, like, did you notice that in the word spin there is no aspiration on the P sound? They wouldn't know what you're talking about. And the same thing is likely to happen like with the Spanish speakers. I actually talk to Spanish speakers and ask this question. They don't know. And that's perfectly natural, because like we just talked about, this the phoneme underlying it is the same. So when you think Spanish, like, I don't want to say think in Spanish, but like when you're in the Spanish mode, this is what the reality is. Like, that's how the language is set up. It just doesn't make any sense to say that, like, to even think about those two different variants as distinct, unless you're trying to really analyze how things are pronounced. Like when you're using the language normally, the same way as like with this aspiration thing in English, it's just like it's such a minute thing that happens, and that is not considered something that can distinguish words from each other. Like, it's not. I say it's not considered. It cannot distinguish words from each other. So that's how it works. I hope this makes sense. It's a complicated thing to explain, but I hope I'm conveying like this information comprehensively, because I would really like people to kind of think about it a bit more, because when you say you're pronouncing letters, you are tying together things that don't have really anything to do with each other. Like in a second, we're going to talk about other fields of study that study writing, and those are separate. Like, if you even just think about, like, at first, when people first started, like a long time ago, when there was no writing at all, people were just speaking the language, and people spoke different languages. There also were different languages in the times before the writing was invented. And so that means that basically there was no letters to pronounce. So that's just nonsense. And if you think that when you're learning a language, you're making a big mistake, because that is going to confuse you a lot, because it just doesn't make sense. What you really should think about, if you want to dig into theory, and like if you're thinking about the language conceptually, if you're analyzing it, what you really should think about is phonemes and the allophones that they have, how they're realized in speech. Like, that's the point that I'm trying to make. Okay.